the data collected by the officers matched a checklist of approved items that they were supposed to report on an accident and got rid of many of the key items that actually were relevant. In other words, they stopped reporting that the highway condition or a condition at a particular intersection contributed to an accident. They never did any forensic analysis of what contributed to the accidents prior. None of that ever made it into the system. Then they start changing everything to be driver related when much of it wasn't. Then they started using related in the reports, which means that the actual core cause didn't support their conclusions. And every time we'd raise these issues, we'd get zero response. And what's worse is every time we try and do something about it, we'd find out that there was no political interest in it. The national news media, the USAs, the TV stations, all of them were in the pocket of the National Highway Safety Administration for their funding. In other words, they were being bought off. They would never do a story straight up challenging what was going on or the information being put out. It got quite frustrating at the end because these practices were actually killing people by the thousands, every year by the thousands. And then when the speed limit was repealed in 1995, Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, the National Highway Safety, all went up to Washington and said it's going to kill another 6,400 people a year. All these people are going to die if we do this. Well, the fatality rate from the 55 mile an hour speed limit, we were in the high 3s and 4s per 100 million miles. After a few years, went down to 1.5. So all these higher speeds that they're saying, oh, it's just natural. If you have higher speeds, you can get more people killed. This is just normal dogma that continues on today. The higher speeds did not kill, but driver behavior changed, courtesy improved, lane management improved. The crazy thing is, I'm not against highway patrol. In fact, I actually put a bill in the Nevada legislature to increase their training, to increase the amount of equipment they carried, so when they got to a scene, they were able to do triage, to do whatever they could to help. Because when you're traveling the West like I did, the poor highway patrol officers back then didn't work 24 hours a day, and they'd get a call 3 or 4 in the morning, and the accident scene would be 75, 100 miles away. And when they get there, they didn't have all the equipment they needed to do triage for the scene or to help them really deal with some of the serious situations they encountered. And what was worse is a big percentage of the people out there, this is open range, and they were driving with inadequate lighting over at high speeds over great distances. I put a bill into the Nevada legislature to try to improve their equipment and what they're equipped with and how to handle some of this stuff, including a tag on it to help the local volunteer people to have better equipment. And the opposing people at the legislature was the Nevada Highway Patrol. I had another bill in Nevada go in to improve the requirements to make sure the engineering studies are done and the safety. See, an engineering study in the language was actually a cursory safety audit of the roadway. You go out and look at the accidents, what caused it, what contributed. The engineer was supposed to go look and see what was going on to make sure that the safety needs of the people for the speeds they're traveling have been met, and that all those things are brought in to make sure the traffic control meets the safety needs of the public. That was killed. And it was killed kind of really viciously as far as I'm concerned. We went through legislature, we went to the assembly, put forth our whole case on how to improve safety and make sure the speed limits are right. Then we went to the Senate, did the whole thing. In an administrative side door that I didn't even know existed in Nevada, after it passed both committees, we're able to change the entire language of the bill to go back to the prior predatory services or language without going through any committee hearings or public notice. And they did it the last 3 days of the legislature. And what was ironic is that year I also passed a bill that said impeding traffic was illegal, and it said guidelines to slower traffic, keep right and when to pass and stay out of the fast lane on multi-lane roads and whatever. I got it through the legislature, and then the following year in the cleanup bill, without anybody knowing, the Highway Patrol had it removed. And that coincides with the National Highway Traffic Station. Nationally, we had the Uniform Vehicle Code, which is all devices in the country had to be equally applied, which has never been the case in the Midwest, ever.